For all that the Trump administration has done to hollow out the federal government, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention continue to play a vital role in providing accurate information to the public. With nearly every state expected to be open for business this weekend, CDC Director Robert Redfield has tweeted that all 12 of the forecasting models that the CDC follows predict that the U.S. is heading toward more than 100,000 coronavirus deaths by June 1st. We're at 88,000 right now, so that's not a stretch. Redfield's post comes after the CDC finally released guidance on states reopening after their original science-based guidance was shelved by the White House for being overly restrictive. It's a topic that the Associated Press has been reporting on exclusively and extensively. It's led to some question that the role and relationship of the CDC and the White House going forward. Joining me now is Kathleen Sebelius, former Health and Human Services Secretary, former Democratic governor of Kansas, and the president and CEO of Resources. Kathleen Sebelius, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Good to be with you, Alan.
I have in my hand here a 68-page remarkably detailed report that was prepared some time ago by the CDC. It has details on schools, it has details on faith communities, on restaurants, on childcare, really, really specific detail that a whole lot of Americans could have benefited from seeing some time ago. This was shelved by the White House. This was tabled. They kept saying they're reviewing it. They wouldn't put it out there. It took reporting to get it out there. What's the point of not putting this information out there? Good, detailed information done by people who actually do this for a living.
Well, I don't know what the point. Well, I think the point of holding it is that the White House must have felt that it would be discouraging or limiting to what they want to do, which is push people out into an economy. I find it very troubling because the CDC, as you said, are not only the national but the international experts on epidemiology. Their expertise is putting out very detailed information about what a school should do, what would be helpful in a restaurant, how to reopen an office place, what happens in a department store, all the kinds of things that people are clamoring for and that consumers then can use to evaluate whether or not to enter a place of business, whether or not to send their kids to the school, whether or not to get on an airplane. If the guidelines are being followed, then they will feel safe and secure. If the guidelines are not followed, they can make a determination. But to hold that information or to censor the information, which is really what is happening, putting out very vague, high-level guidance instead of this detailed place-by-place, program-by-program information, is dangerous for the public. It puts public officials at a disadvantage, and it certainly puts the American public at an extreme disadvantage because people really then don't know what to do.
I don't know how well we can see this on TV, but I'm just going to sort of flip through the type of detail that's involved in here, like it's specific small print bullet print points on two sides of the page, whether it's churches, restaurants, things like that. I guess this begs the question, Kathleen Sebelius, if we've got a CDC, what's the relationship that the CDC is supposed to have with the government? Because I don't know how many different other organizations put out details like this, but it seems like we should have had this maybe 2 months ago or at least a month ago when we were debating how to stay open or who should stay open, because this is valid scientific information. I totally understand that this administration seems to have a fraught relationship with science and evidence-based stuff. But is the CDC does Robert Redfield have a voice in the government right now, or is he, like other health officials, doing the bidding of the president?
Well, unfortunately, it does appear that the White House has decided that they will monitor and censor what scientists are allowed to say, when they're allowed to speak, what information they're allowed to put out. That's very, very, very dangerous. I think that I recently was with Rich Besser, Dr. Richard Besser was the acting CDC director during H1N1. And he again explained that what the CDC does the very best, he was there for 13 years, is this kind of detailed guidance and epidemiology. They set a national framework. Then state and local leaders can make independent decisions based on what that framework looks like within their own jurisdiction, and consumers can make a decision. But what we need is the national framework. We need the kind of expertise. And if the White House holds it, censors it, so the 67-page report that you have in your hands, Allie, that was put forward to the White House. There's a clearance process that always happens. Usually the turnaround would be very quickly. They look for typos, they look for information, and then they find the right point to push it out. What happened this time is the White House held on to it, and what has been put out is a very different kind of document with not nearly the level of detail. And that information is being held or censored in a way that is not helpful to anybody.
Well, I would recommend that every American, regardless of whether you run an organization or a business or not, download this and read it, because it is so specific and so detailed that it can inform your own decisions about how you engage when the governments, your state governments, lift the rules. Secretary, good to see you as always. Thank you. Kathleen Sebelius is the former Health and Human Services Secretary and the former governor of Kansas and the president and the CEO of Resources.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes.